This is ODAAT Chat, your instant connection to recovery and community, one day at a time. This podcast may contain strong language, sexual content, and spiritual truth. Listener discretion is advised.
Today's episode is brought to you by Audible.com. Last week, I talked about the miracle morning for addiction recovery, letting go of who you've been for who you can become, and I'm doing it again. This week, I'm interviewing one of the authors, Anna David. The book covers why it's so important to develop a good morning routine to start your day, but also presents all the tools you need for recovery, such as journaling, building a support system. There's tips on exercise and meditation, nutrition, just to name a few. The audiobook was so good, I'm going to get the paperback as well so I can highlight and take notes in the margins. If you'd like to drown out that critical voice, try audible.com for about $15 a month. ODAAT Chat listeners can get the first one free. Just visit odaatchat.com and look for the Audible link on the right-hand side. Welcome to ODAAT Chat. My name is Arlina and I'll be your host. In case you didn't know, ODAAT stands for One Day at a Time. If you haven't yet, don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, or you can get new episodes delivered right to your inbox by signing up for the newsletter at odaatchat.com. I actually don't send you a ton of email, like maybe 1 or 2 emails a month with links to the episodes. So there you have it. You might be wondering about what the purpose of the podcast is, and what I can tell you is that besides wanting to clear up a lot of misconceptions about addiction and recovery, and I also wanted to share the teachers, ideas, and exercises that have helped me on my own journey over the last 24 years, some of which includes, but is not limited to, 12-step program stuff. So like I said, today's guest is with Anna David. I'm going to read this intro that Hal Elrod wrote about her because I thought it was so good. I'm not going to be able to make it any better. So Anna is a well-respected expert in her field. She is a New York Times bestselling author of 2 novels, 4 nonfiction books about recovery, addiction, and relationships. She has appeared on the Today Show, Dr. Drew, CBS Morning, and The Insider. She's been published in New York Times, Time, Vanity Fair, Cosmopolitan, Esquire, and has been written about in Forbes, Stewart Living, Entrepreneur, Allure, and Women's Health, among many others. Most recently, Anna co-authored the newest book in the Miracle Morning series, which was created by Hal Elrod. Like I said, it's the Miracle Morning for Addiction Recovery, letting go of who you've been for who you can become. Also participating in the authorship is Joe Polish. Authorship, is that even a word? I'm not really sure. Anyway, Joe Polish also contributed, and he is the founder of Genius Recovery. 3 totally amazing people. So my chat with Anna felt more like coffee with a girlfriend than an interview. She's witty, funny, and super adorable. And that is the least of her qualities. She is just an amazing person, and I really enjoyed my conversation with her. So with that long-ass intro, please enjoy this episode with Anna. Well, Anna, welcome to the ODAAT Chat Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited. So I thought we would start out because your bio is too important to me to mess it up. So I'm going to record that later. But you are a New York Times bestselling author. You've been on many shows. You've written for every cool publication that there is. But you have a new book out. It's called Miracle Morning for Addiction Recovery.
I love that. So you listened to it today while you were gardening. I love it.
Yeah,
I haven't even heard the audio version yet.
Well, it's really good. There was the guy doesn't pronounce Gabor Mate's name correctly, but other than that, it's fabulous.
How does he say it?
He calls
Gabor Mate?
Well, mate. He calls him Gabber Mate.
Hilarious.
Yeah,
Joe and I had the opportunity to record, and it was just like too crazy. And I've only recorded 2 of my Kindle singles as audiobooks, and it took everything out of me just to read 20 pages. So I can't imagine what it does to your throat to have to read an entire book.
Yeah. Okay. So usually I start out by asking my guests what they look like and what they do for a living.
What they look like?
Yeah, because it's a podcast.
Yeah.
And so I thought it would be fun for people to kind of get an image in their mind of what you look like. You're super adorable, but how would you describe yourself?
Well, I don't have as many colors on my nails as you do. Your 4th of July nails. Spoiler alert, we're recording this right before 4th of July.
Mm-hmm.
What do I look like? I am a 5'4" brunette, 5'3.5", frankly, with size 8 feet. Big feet. I think smoking stunted my growth, also ballet. And how else do
you are adorable.
From one side, I have a very Jewish nose, and from the other, I'm showing you right now. That's my Jewish side, and then on the other side, I have my mom's nose, which is like very cute and upturned. So,
what is your mom?
She's Jewish too. No, sorry. They're both Jewish, but I have my dad has a cute turned up nose, and then my mom has a Jewish nose. So I have both.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Thank you. I didn't know that until I appeared on television and people were like, she looks like Leah Michelle. And I'm like, Leah Michelle looks so Jewish. And then I'm like, oh, look at me from that side. I mean, she's gorgeous. Thank you. But you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. Cute as a button. Okay. So, how would you describe yourself? Because you're a New York Times bestselling author, but you're also a coach. Can we just talk for a second about your writing program that I'm going to be joining?
Yay.
Let's talk about the, I'm sorry, I'm keep cutting you off, but tell me about your writing program.
So yes, and by the way, I don't know how to describe what I do. So if you're like, well, I don't know how to describe it, you and I are in the same boat because it's a lot of things at the same time, which is how I need to be doing it. So yes, I did write 6 books that I published traditionally, and then The Miracle Morning is my first, sort of self-publishing foray. Oh. And then I have this program that you're going to be joining, and it's called All the Right Moves. WRITE, of course.
You come up with the best names.
Oh, God. I still don't think Light Hustler is that great a name. We'll get into that in a minute. Pretty into All the Right Moves. I do think that's a good one. So I take 10 writers at a time, and I walk them through the process of writing their book proposals to sell to a publisher. Because a lot of people don't know that if you're going to do a nonfiction book, didn't we talk about this? You shouldn't just go ahead and write it. And so many people don't know that for a publisher to consider your book, you got to write the proposal. So it's videos, PDFs, you get samples of all my book proposals, and then Kristen McGinnis, she's also a best-selling author of 6 books. Wow. She's your writing coach / book architect. So she's there throughout providing feedback. I do monthly webinars. We have a private Facebook group where, I'll do interviews with editors and stuff like that. And then the big thing is that 1 out of every group gets a meeting with my agent, a big agent in New York, and a publisher. And the crazy amazing thing is in the last 2, so I've only done 3 groups. Somebody from the first group sold her book, but it actually wasn't the winner. She sold it. A publisher reached out to her, and she's like, "I've got this book," and they acquired it. Then the last 2 groups, the publisher that I arranged the meeting with actually acquired the book, and so one's coming out in late 2018, and one's coming out in early 2019. So that's really awesome, and not a guarantee, and completely floored me, and it makes me really excited. So,
that's amazing. Very cool.
So I don't know when this is being released, but so we have, so I'm full right now, and then we have a September 2018 group starting, and I'm allowing people to reserve their spaces first, but they have to talk to me on the phone because it's application only. And so, yeah, if anybody's interested in that, probably the easiest thing is just to email me, just anna@annadavid.com.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. And
are you scared?
Just because, I've been writing for a long time, and I'm very transparent about everything. But I have so many things going on that I'm like, oh gosh, I hope I can fit it all in. But I think I need I need some hand holding. And I've taken other classes where they talk about doing the book proposal, and then I just spin out. I'm by myself. It's like I'm in this vacuum, and I don't know if what I'm doing is right or whatever. I just feel like I need some accountability, hand holding. Plus, I think it would be great to network with other people who are also doing the same thing. So.
Yeah, and it's interesting because people like have become best friends. I was just in Portland with, and I was seeing the guy who won 2 book proposals ago, and he met up with 2 people who are in the current group. I'm like, you did?
Wow, that is so
random.
Cool. Yeah.
But it's also people share contacts, because a big part of it is people need to fill their publicity sections. So, there's all these different parts of a book proposal, the overview, the PR section, the market analysis, the chapter summaries. And so my first push is get published on the Huffington Post and go get published on all these websites so that you can be very impressive to publishers. And I've had students, they've been published on the Huffington Post, on Thought Catalog, on the Fix, on Elite Daily, like huge sites. And people will share contacts with each other in the Facebook group.
Okay.
Feedback, and it's really good. Yeah.
I'm super excited about it.
I'm excited.
You know what? I don't want to be a sales girl anymore.
Yeah. I mean, here's what I always say to everybody. You will never make money from being a writer, but you can make a lot of money from being a writer.
Right.
And you've got the personality.
You are putting down, sister.
Yeah, and it's like there's so much you can do. I mean, you can do talks and get paid $5,000 a talk. You can start coaching programs. You can do so much. Yeah. But you will not make money from selling a book. Like right. you will make a little bit, but that's not where the goal should be.
Yeah, it's almost like the book is a business card now, kind of gives you the credibility and all that. Yeah,
I've heard that. It's definitely much easier to book speaking gigs. I mean, I think you need a book if you want to do speaking gigs.
Absolutely. Well, let's start with a little bit of your story. And I was just sharing with you earlier that I read a review that said that I interrupt my guests too much and that my constant ad-libbing was driving them crazy. So I think maybe, do you want to do like 10 or 15 minutes or whatever? I don't know how to do it this new format, but do you want to just tell your story a little bit, like your recovery story? And
yes, but as I told you, as somebody who also gets bad reviews on her podcast, and you have one, I have like probably 10 bad reviews. And I mean,
it stings a little bit.
Nasty.
And so rude.
But as I told you, they're listening. That is somebody who had to listen all the way through. Yeah. So, I mean, how much can they hate you? And how much does it have to do with, I just had this amazing thing happen a couple days ago. I send out newsletters every week. And when you first sign up for the list, you get them every day for a little while or every couple days. This girl, I get this email. It's like, look, I don't know how you got my email, but your emails are super annoying. I have unsubscribed completely. Take care. No, good luck to you. You need to change your strategy. And the thing is, I get so many nice emails, and then I get occasionally really mean ones. And this is why I do this. So years and years ago, I wrote a blog post about meeting a writer. This was before I'd ever written a book, and I dreamed of writing a book. And I met this writer at his book party, and I felt like he was dismissive of me. And I wrote it in my own blog post, and he emailed me, and he said, "I'm so sorry you thought I was dismissive of you. I was really overwhelmed. It was my first book party." And I will never forget. I was just like, you know what? I am never going to write something bad about someone again, because it didn't occur to me that he would see it or that he was a real person. So I will write back. And so I wrote this girl the other day, and I go, look, my intention was not to annoy you. If you got my emails, you're on my list. So you signed up, but goodbye to you. She wrote me back and was like, I am so sorry. It is the sweetest email. I almost want to read it to you. And she was just like, I don't know. I did not know this was going to a real person. I feel terrible. You are such a good person doing good in the world. It was like, and then I wrote her back and I was like, okay, you're my favorite subscriber. We are like going back and forth. We are like best friends now. So it is possible to, she's so cool. Like to be able to own that. Because we've all done and said nasty things, and I've sent off nasty emails, and I just love it.
It's so, restraint of tongue and pen, right? It's so easy to send a quick text or say something. I don't know. There's just like, I don't know. We think it's like when you're in a car and when you're behind the computer, it's like we forget that other people are actually real. Something about that barrier that just makes people seem not like you're behind the car and someone swerves and you're like, fuck you. You know what I mean?
It's that thing of like, our spiritual, whatever, my spiritual quest among many other spiritual quests I have is to remember that like we're all one. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That I frown at my neighbor. I'm doing that to myself. And it's so easy when you're in the car to like make that person the enemy. If you're the pedestrian and they're driving, you're like, asshole driver. And then you're the driver and you're like, asshole pedestrian. Like, it's just it's so easy to make them the enemy when like, if there is a way, and I try really hard to do this when I'm driving, to just sort of, wave. And I heard someone say this at a meeting recently. It's like, if you let them go in front of you when you're driving, they can never cut you off,
Bam.
Because it's so, but the horrible thing is when you are super nice to another driver and then they don't acknowledge it. Ugh. Right?
I was on my way to a meeting the other day and this lady looked like she was going to come in front of me and I kind of pointed at her. And then I was driving. I was like, I would be so embarrassed if she ended up at that same meeting.
Right? Right?
It wasn't her.
That's so funny. I had a fantasy. I'm sorry if I'm going off on too many segues, but I had this fantasy when I was in Portland last weekend going on a bike ride. And this guy was like, basically went around me. He was like, you should stay on that side of the road. And I was like, thanks for the tip. And he's like, I'm just telling you. And so anyway, I was leading a writing workshop there, and I had this fantasy that he was going to be in the workshop and that he was going to be super embarrassed, but it didn't happen.
Oh my God. I have a crazy story for you since we're on tangents. I was at a meeting where this guy was talking about how he was on his way to an interview and he was still using. And I forgot what happened. He went into a bathroom and some guy was like shooting up or doing drugs in the bathroom. And they like got into an argument or whatever. And he was like, wow, that guy is crazy. He gets to the interview. It was the guy interviewing was the guy in the bathroom.
Was the guy doing drugs?
Yes.
Oh my God. And did the guy doing drugs understand that he had been busted by that guy?
No, he was like, get the fuck out of my office. You are not hired.
Oh my God.
That was so wild. Okay. So your story.
My story's not that interesting. It's really not. I certainly can't go for 15 minutes. I think you need to not be worried about interrupting. You haven't interrupted.
Okay, so I should just ask my questions like I usually do then?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, so I read somewhere, I thought maybe on Wikipedia, that you grew up in Marin?
Yeah.
Oh, so you're local. Okay. And then, so tell me about I'm always curious about people's families, right? So tell me a little bit about your parents. Like, what did your dad do for a living?
My dad, are you from the Bay Area?
Yeah, I'm from Sunnyvale.
Okay. You may be too young. I don't know, but
you wouldn't. Than you, by the way.
Well, you don't. You look amazing.
It's the Botox of, but
oh my God, and the nails. Now, okay, so growing up, my dad had a discount TV and stereo store in Daly City, and his ads were on the radio 24/7. Do you remember Top of the Hill, Daly City?
Yes.
Even Matthew David. It was nonstop.
That was your dad?
Yeah. Okay. I'm so gratifying that because I just feel like it was like a part of history.
It was part of history. I totally remember.
There's this Jake Gyllenhaal movie. There's a Jake Gyllenhaal movie. I think it's Nightcrawler, where it's the 80s in the Bay Area, and they have my dad's commercial playing on the radio when he's in the car.
That was a trippy movie, but
yeah,
it was wild that your dad's commercial was on there.
That being said, I don't have a good relationship with my dad, and it was humiliating to me. It was just like my dad was like the crazy Eddie of the Bay Area, and it always felt really embarrassing. And the truth is, my dad graduated third in his class at Harvard, was this incredibly successful businessman, but he was perceived as this total cheeseball because he had these commercials and he had these local TV ads, and and he was so. But the truth is, it was a true success story at the time. Things kind of went awry for him later, but when I was growing up, that's what he did, and my mom was getting her PhD in English, and and we grew up in Marin. I have, in many ways, I'm lucky. There's trauma and stuff that I am still dealing with to a degree, but my mom is great. I have an older brother. speaking of Botox, he's a biochemist who invented this thing called Kybella. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
It's that chin thing.
Yeah. Is that to take away the little?
Yeah.
What are we calling that thing?
The
Like second chin, or
I don't know, but I need it. And yes, so he's a biochemist who's started a bunch of companies. Yeah.
Your family, they're a bunch of smarty. Y'all are a bunch of smarty pants.
They're real smart. They're real smart. And I feel like nobody ever thought I was smart until I got sober. And because my brother was so smart and Harvard and PhD at Cal and all that stuff, I just thought I was a complete idiot because I felt like when I wasn't a great student or anything, I didn't test well. And then it didn't occur to me that I was smart until I got sober and people were like, "You're smart." I'm like, me? Really? And now I get it. But that early childhood programming is pretty intense.
Yeah, that really is. I didn't think I was smart either. Turns out I was just stoned.
I didn't even smoke pot, so I have no excuse.
So let's backtrack a little bit, because you kind of glossed over, you mentioned, you threw out the word trauma, and I don't want you to reveal anything you're not comfortable revealing, and I agree that I feel like Gabor Mate is talking about his book, In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts. He's talking about addiction is rooted in trauma. And, I've been sober a long time. I've talked to a lot of people, and it seemed like story after story about trauma. And do you want to share as much or as little as you want about where you feel like the trauma came from?
Well, it's, Dr. Drew told me about this thing called the dandelion and orchid idea, which is that, some of us are dandelions and we're very resilient and maybe a little insensitive. And then some of us are orchids where we're so fragile and you got to water us the right amount and too much sunlight. And so something that registers as trauma for an orchid would not for a dandelion. So, I wasn't beaten, I wasn't molested, and yet I had stuff happen that when I talk about it, people are like, "Ooh, shit, that's some stuff." But it's hard to sort of. I happen to be doing EMDR right now.
Oh, right now.
Yeah, I started it about a month ago. I told you I've been going through a rough time, and I figured I was always scared to do EMDR because I thought it would make me sad. So I was like, why don't I go when I'm already sad? Then I don't have to risk anything. And it actually is great because I can be very detached. That was one of my coping skills. And one of the things that my dad used to do is he used to laugh at me when I cried. And so I have a hard time crying sometimes because it feels humiliating. And so that's been a problem. And this EMDR, I've just been weeping. And I mean, this is not funny, but I was walking home from work. This was a week ago. Oh my God, it was the day we were supposed to do this that we were kind of bonding about having a hard day. And I was crying so hard that a homeless man goes, "Are you okay?" And I super defensively go, "Yes." And he goes, "You don't seem okay." And he shuffled off. And I texted my friend and I was like, "This will be funny one day. It's just not yet."
Is it funny today? I'm so sorry. I totally just laughed.
It's made a lot of people laugh when everyone I've told it to laughs, but I get that it's funny. But
wow.
So
there is something about being sad that cracks open the protective facade, right? So I think that's your instincts are really good to go do the hard work while your heart is still open.
Yes. Yeah, and this new therapist, she has no idea that I'm not a weeping machine. I had cried maybe once in the past year before now, and I'm just "You're getting to know me at a weird time." She's like, "I get to know everyone at a weird time, when they're doing
right.
EMDR."
Because if things are great, why would you go see her?
Exactly.
Oh, good for you. Okay, so your relationship with Dad was he just a workaholic? Was he just working all the time? Is that why the detachment?
Yes, but I would have wished he'd worked more, frankly. So yeah, I just don't think he was a totally safe person for anyone to be around. But he's just ill. emotionally.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was early childhood. I was like a really happy kid, really super well adjusted. I don't relate to when people are like, I always felt uncomfortable in my own skin. That was not my deal. But high school is like when my dad got busted for embezzlement. It was all over the papers, and it was,
Oh my God.
and my brother was at boarding school, and just everything felt bad, and that's when I really got into partying. But I didn't think I was getting into it to escape anything. I just thought I was having fun. And then college, I had a blast. I had such a good time. And then
Where'd you go to school?
I went to a school called Trinity in Hartford, Connecticut, and loved it. And then and then the Coke got real bad in the 90s.
Coke does that to people.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. My husband got sober when he was 18 because he bottomed out around Coke.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah,
That is young.
29 years sober now.
Wow.
Crazy. So what is your relationship with your mom and your brother like? Did they have the same problems with your dad?
Yeah. I remember I told you, I was like, don't say anything that'll make me cry because I'm very fragile. And you're like, so what are your relationships with your family like? I'm kidding. Yes.
This is the good stuff. The family stuff. This is all the good stuff.
It's complicated, but good. My brother is getting married in a couple weeks, and like my dad's not invited. So I would say they had, some of the same problems.
Are you nervous about his wedding?
About my brothers?
Yeah.
Wait, why?
Well, I mean, weddings brings up everyone's weird family stuff, right? So
yeah.
I don't know if there's anticipation, like anxiety about the actual day, or like, is dad going to show up? Or
oh no, he's not going to show up. I bet you he doesn't even know it's happening.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm not psyched about it, but I've never been like, I don't like weddings. I never wanted a wedding, but it's fine. You know, I love my soon-to-be sister-in-law. She's amazing.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It makes it so much easier.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what was your first time using? Was it alcohol, or you didn't try cocaine the first time?
I didn't go straight to that. I drank when I was 12. My friend Maria and I took her a bottle from her mother's liquor cabinet of vodka, and we poured it in like a. We were very adventurous. We did it during the day.
Wow.
To take the bus into the city to go meet Charlie and Ethan, two boys from our class, at Baker Beach, where we sat and drank the vodka. And it wasn't that great.
Crazy. At 12 years old?
Yeah, that's what I feel like. That's not that crazy. And if you're sober now,
I guess.
Your husband was surely doing it at 12, right?
No, he didn't drink till a little bit later. I mean, I had already drank many times, but I always did it at home. Like, I didn't leave my house till till a little bit later, like a couple years later. But it's just funny. Like, nowadays, could you imagine today, a 12-year-old leaving the house, getting drunk, and being out in the world with all the crazy things that are happening, and then drunk on top of that? Just so vulnerable.
I know. But yeah. I mean, that's that. And then it just sort of progressed from there.
Yeah. And when did cocaine come into the picture?
I actually tried it in high school. I remember we were visiting, my school did a college trip to the East Coast. I want to say we were at Dartmouth. And the reason I remember, no, you know what? I had done it at a couple parties in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And then the reason I remember doing it at the school is I remember this guy from my class who was kind of like a good kid, like a wholesome kid. I just remember him watching me do it with just like shock and dismay. It just occurred to me, because I think I went, well, why do I not feel that way? He's so shocked, and I should be too, but instead I'm the one doing it,
Yeah.
But I remember
like an out-of-body experience, like a moment of realization.
Yeah, my moment of clarity at 14 that I ignored for
right
20 years.
Yeah, it's fine.
But yeah, so yeah, I did it in high school, and then I didn't become like super addicted to it until later, my 20s.
Yeah.
late 20s.
Were you having any, so it was really around cocaine, and I think I read somewhere Ambien, like you were taking a lot of Ambien. I always read these things about Ambien, like people like blackout periods of time. And do you black out on Ambien, or you just go to sleep?
I just was doing it to go to sleep, but I was, I was doing a lot of coke, and then I would take a lot of Ambien, and by a lot, I mean I would take like 10 times the prescribed amount.
Oh my gosh.
So then the next day I remember driving in my car. I mean, I had taken Ambien the night before. It was like midday, and I was driving, and I was like, where am I going? Like it was just in my system, and I didn't like Ambien eat and all this stuff. I did it before people were writing articles about how they would take Ambien and eat and stuff like that. But I rarely left the house after taking it, but it did not go well if I did leave the house after taking it. So yeah.
That seems like it would be a bad idea.
Yeah.
But that was one of the things that you did to sort of manage your life, manage your feelings, because you were, high with cocaine and then low with the Ambien.
Yeah.
When did you decide it was like your drinking and using was a problem? Were you having like consequences?
I had a very small life, so I didn't have a ton of consequences. My consequences is that I like lost my 20s, and got like a very late start in life. But I was doing it in a real small way. I was home alone. I didn't have a lot of responsibilities, so I wasn't shirking my responsibilities. And, and it was dark, and I was super lonely, and it's not a big dramatic thing. I just decided that like I didn't want to live, but I didn't want to die. I just wanted an escape. And I had known I had a problem for many years before I stopped. I kept trying to stop. I couldn't stop. And then one day I just was, sort of surrendered and called my mom and said, I'm a cocaine addict. And I was in rehab the following week.
What did your mom say about that?
Well, I mean, it's like the call every mother dreams of when she's pregnant. Like, what? She goes, I had 2 cats at the time, and she goes, put your cats in the car and come home. LA did this to you, because about the Bay Area LA rivalry. And
right.
And so, I think that every person, every kid in LA who had to get sober, their parents blame LA for it. But, the truth is, it's like if I'd been in Des Moines, I would have, if I'd been on a farm in the Midwest, I would have found that weird ranch hand that dealt coke on the side. Like, yes, LA. It was very easy to find cocaine. It was very easy to find people who did it the way I did, but it wasn't LA that did this to me.
Right.
So that was May 2nd of 2000. And then I did end up not believing that alcoholism and addiction were the same thing. Went out to test that theory on November 18th of that year, had 2 bottles of wine, 4.5 hits of ecstasy, realized they were possibly the same thing, came back November 19th of 2000. So that's my sober date.
Wow. That's amazing. It's 4 hits of ecstasy. That sounds like a good time.
4.5.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. It was intense.
Yeah. I remember doing ecstasy one time at a party and thinking that the first one wasn't going to kick in. So I took a second, and about 5, I don't know how long, shortly after the second one kicked in, and I was, oh my gosh. Wow. That was my best friend got a DUI that night as we were trying to drive home. It's crazy. Oh my God. Did you ever get into any trouble with the law? Ever been arrested?
No. No. Yeah. I mean, I will tell you, one night I was high and drunk, and I parked my car off of Hollywood Boulevard to go to a late night. And my friend and I went into some late night party, and we were up there like drinking, doing coke, whatever. We come down, and Hollywood Boulevard back then was super sketchy. It's still a little sketchy, but we walk down, and I look around, and it's 3 in. I'm like, we're gonna get killed. And my friend's like, I know. And I go, I have no idea where my car is. And she goes, I know. And obviously before Uber, there are no cabs in LA. There never have been. So we see a cop car driving down the street. I start waving it down. She goes, what are you doing? And I said, we're going to die out here. It's better to get arrested. So wave down the cops. They pull up. I suddenly am just acting super sober. And I just go, hi, officer, I I've misplaced my car. Is there any way you could drive us around until we could find it? And he's like, sure, get in. There were two of them. And we get in and we drive around, and I made conversation with them. As far as I remember, I was like smoking a cigarette in the back. So much fun. And then we found my car, and I said, thank you so much. And we drove off. And my friend was like, she goes, I haven't had a breath in the last hour. That was so terrifying. I'm like, that's fine.
He's like, we going to jail.
Yeah. So
Wow.
no, there was some interaction with cops, but I never got pulled over, which is when I was drunk, I've been pulled over sober, but
Yeah. I used to have a boyfriend that was a cop. I got pulled over probably 4 times, and I would just hand his business card with my license. I know.
oh my God, really? And they would respect that?
Yeah. They let me go 4 times. It was, it was so bad.
That is so scary that they're like, she could go kill herself or someone else, but she, knows this guy.
Yeah. One time I was so loaded. I was like, I can't believe they let me go. I woke up the next morning and I walked outside, and there were weeds. I had like a little Ford Ranger. It was like a little pickup, and there were weeds coming in between the fender and the hood. There's like weeds. And I vaguely
What
remember,
did you do?
I vaguely remember, exiting the freeway and maybe taking too wide of a turn and going into the weeds.
Uh-huh.
I think that's what happened. I'm not sure. But I was
Oh my God.
super loaded. Yeah, actually, that was a funny story because we'd been partying at a nightclub, and we left, and my girlfriend had been dancing all night, and she was wearing this lace bodysuit under like shorts, like a jumper kind of a thing. And she was like, pull over, I need to change. So we pull over behind this warehouse. She takes off the jumper. She starts to take off the lace bodysuit. And just as she was butt ass naked, this cop car comes up behind us and turns on the floodlights, and they all come like rushing out, and she's naked. And I was like, put your clothes on. And so she's like this. And the guy's like, oh, what are you doing? He totally thought we were having sex.
Oh my God. That is so funny.
Swear to God. Anyway, she was just changing. Doesn't everybody do that? So bizarre.
Girls got to change.
She was sweaty. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so I digress. So you tell your mom you're a cocaine addict. She's super excited and sends you to rehab.
Yeah, and then I've been sober since, November 19th, 2000.
Where did you go to rehab?
I did Promises, but I did outpatient. And, back then there was nothing out there. There were not podcasts like yours and mine, and there was no recovery blogs. And so the only rehabs I knew about were the ones where celebrities had gone. I had worked at People magazine.
Oh, shit.
So I had this background in sort of gossip rags. And so I had heard of Promises. That was the only, and Betty Ford. And so I remember calling around, and I was like, this is pretty affordable. And then I get to Promises, and it's really nice now. It was so run down. I remember there's like a broken basketball net, and it was there for a couple days. And I said to someone, I was like, I think it's great that they just like tone down how fancy this is, and that they hide the movie stars in the pool and from the rest of us. And he's like, dude, there's 2 Promises. Like, there's a really fancy one in Malibu. We're not at the fancy one.
You're at the wrong one.
But so I did outpatient, which I remember they didn't have an outpatient program. And I called, and I had a job that I was not willing to give up. And I talked them into letting me do outpatient.
Oh my God.
And it was actually great. So I kind of had a group I went through rehab with. They were there all day. I would show up at like 5 o'clock and stay till about 10 o'clock and stay, and be with them on the weekends. Mm-hmm. And it was great. I'm still friends with some of the people.
What was your experience? What did they do? They take you through 12 steps, or what were the solutions they presented to you? It
was really 12-step based, and I had been very, very convinced I wanted nothing to do with AA, because that was for creeps and Jesus freaks and ew. And and it's like we did group therapy, and I liked it. Then they started taking us to small meetings, and I liked them. And it was sort of like I loved AA before I remembered that I hated AA. And I just really embraced it from from the beginning, pretty much. I mean, obviously, it's a super controversial thing. I don't know what works for the next person. All I know is what works for me, and it works very well for me.
Yeah. What is it that's controversial?
About 12-step?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Well, I mean, there's so many different angles that you could take that from, right? So it's like, I mean, I'm very much of, I'm 12-step oriented. But I have, listen, when there's a new girl that comes in, I'm like, the women work with the women, stay away from the boys, and, water seeks its own level, and you a little bit crazy right now. So all you're going to attract is some more crazy. So, I mean, there's like definitely for women, like there are things they need to be careful of. And then, I grew up in the church, so I didn't have a problem with God. And I mean, I kind of divorced myself from religion because I, it was like I couldn't be good. So I decided to be good at being bad kind of a thing. Right. And you know what I mean? So like I show up, but I realized like there's celebrate recovery and smart recovery and refuge recovery. And like, I don't know. I don't care how you get sober. You know what I mean? But,
yeah, same. I mean, I think that there are a lot of people who have very bad experiences,
it bums me out too.
But I mean, and to be honest, it's like 17 and a half years. I've never seen a guy be inappropriate. Like even that, it was not my experience, and I don't see it. I don't know if I've just been lucky enough to go to meetings where people are super respectful of that, but it is just not a thing I've witnessed. But also, yes, of course, when I was new, there were people, but
did you get the warning from the women, like, be careful?
No, not really. I mean, the thing is, I feel like this is what I don't love, and this may sound insensitive. Okay, so it's like, this is kind of a tangent. Dr. Drew had this show, Celebrity Rehab.
Yeah.
And it was extremely controversial, and people died. Terrible drug addicts died after being on that show. And people would say, I cannot believe Drew takes advantage of these people. And it's like, they made the decision to come on that show, to accept a lot of money. Nobody's forcing anyone to do anything. And I don't mean to be insensitive, but I feel the same way about, these women, they just can't protect themselves. It's like, I don't know. I had guys hit on me. I was like, no. Even though I was newly sober, I didn't lose all ability to take care of myself. And so there's something about this acting like addicts are somehow unable to be adults. Yes, I get it, but I also think it's kind of silly.
Yeah, there definitely is the whole. Well, that's the whole point of showing up to a program where it's like you need to learn where you need to take responsibility.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like we're so accustomed to taking inappropriate responsibility for others and like no responsibility for ourselves, or
right.
Like, I don't know about you, but I was like totally self-centered, but incapable of self-examination.
Right. I love that. It's so true.
Isn't that good? I totally made that up.
I'm going to steal it and copyright it.
Please do. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I guess when you say controversy, I was just curious, like what was jumping to mind for you?
Oh, well, just that people, I think they go in, they have bad experiences. They assume that if they encounter someone who is really militant, who says like, you have to believe in God or you'll die, or someone who's inappropriate to them, they then build a story about how everybody in AA is like this. And it's like, if I went on a bus and I met a crazy person who was mean to me, for me to go, well, all people on buses are like this. Like, right. Of course you're going to find inappropriate, unpleasant people there. And like I said, I think I've been super, super lucky, but I also think addicts can be very, very defensive and really want to build a case against something. And at the same time, I so get that it doesn't work for people. I so get that it's very male-centered. I get that it's, if you grew up with a punishing God and just book is telling you you need to believe in a God for you to be sober. I understand why that would not work for people, but people write books and many articles, and I get hate mail. And
do you really?
Oh yeah.
Oh, what?
Oh, like you are just such an AA cheerleader. It's just annoying. I had a girl, I was telling you about that hater that we became best friends. I had a girl who was writing me on Facebook, and she was like, your podcast is responsible for my relapse. And I go, what? And she was like, you and you just act like you're so together, and you talk about this 12-step and 12-step, and I wrote her back, and she just got meaner and meaner and meaner. I was like, okay, I got to block this girl. But I was in a very spiritually healthy place at the time. And so I was able to read that email and go, wow, she's in so much fucking pain, and she's found me to, but if it happened today, I probably wouldn't have that reaction, but I was just very on the beam.
You're very zen at the moment. Yeah. Isn't that funny how, in long-term sobriety, we have these moments where we're just on the beam, and then some where we're just not. I mean, that's the ebb and flow of recovery. Well, I have a bunch of questions I want to ask you. Can I ask you about, so I want to be a writer, and I feel like, being on the New York Times list is like getting an Academy Award kind of. Can you kind of just walk me through what it was like? Like, how did you find out, or what was the experience like? Kind of walk me through that experience.
Okay, so not like getting an Academy Award. The book of mine that hit the list was this book I wrote for an actor who
Tell
was
5 more.
Incredibly, it was an incredibly challenging, horrible experience. And the only reason I put up with it, and I put up with a lot, is I knew it would be a New York Times bestseller. And I just was like, just stick with this. And he used to kind of maybe throw phones at me and do some really crazy stuff. And so we were not in touch when the book came out. And his manager was like a real sick, crazy guy who kind of really painted me as the enemy in this, because I kept threatening to quit because phones were flying at my face.
Wow.
And so I didn't know. I was totally shut, even though my name is bigger than his on the book cover. I was totally shut out of the release. And I think I literally found out because I think he tweeted it or something. And I'm like, oh my God.
How bittersweet is that, right?
Yeah. And Simon & Schuster really took his side because they had no choice. It was pretty awful because they knew what I was dealing with, but they had to put out a book,
So you were, how does that work? Like, you were writing his story, or?
Yeah. So I had to spend a year interviewing him, and I wrote it. He never actually even read it. Yeah. So it's by me, but it's, it's all his story.
Yeah, but you know what? Fuck him, because look at you now.
Yeah, I will work New York Times bestselling author into any conversation. I earn that so much.
You even know. That is so awesome. I think our audio just changed a little bit.
Okay, yeah. Wait, hold on. Am I okay?
Yeah, you sound good.
Okay, yeah, I did something weird.
Okay, well, that's a little disappointing. I totally thought, isn't that interesting, though? It was like you worked so hard for that, but you've been able to, that's a really good thing to say, right? New York Times bestselling author. That's pretty.
I will say it was almost worth it. No, I think it was, because I survived it. But I will tell you that it was like I was surviving it, and then for like 6 months afterwards, I got sciatica, and it went down to my leg. I literally couldn't walk. So it was sort of like, the body keeps score, and the body was like, you can't actually take that, even though I took it.
Yeah. Wow. Did you have some moments, though, of like, oh my God, this is amazing, because it's like, you have this, family of super high achievers, and now you can be like, well, guess what?
Oh, yeah. I'm thrilled with it. I am so proud of it. I'm so happy it happened. I feel super, super lucky. And of course. But like, it's that thing where nothing's ever going to feel the way you think it's going to make you feel.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, something like that it doesn't have to feel a certain way. I get to, it helps me in everything. So it doesn't matter if it didn't like change the way I felt. It's such a useful, amazing gift, really.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. All right. Well, let me ask you about, I know you do a lot of speaking engagements, and it looks like you did a keynote alongside Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
Did you hang out with him at all? Or is he like so super, I feel like he's probably just like so super scheduled. It's like they rush him in, he does his thing, and then he fails.
I really had fantasies that like he was going to like stick around afterwards and watch my talk, and we could totally hang out. But so my mentor / the guy that I wrote The Miracle Morning with is this guy, Joe Polish, who's this super amazing marketing genius. And so he has this annual event. And so he's friends with Tony Robbins and all these people. So Tony came to speak at it, and then Joe had me speak at it. And Tony Robbins has no
Y'all
idea.
didn't hang out or nothing? Oh, that's too bad. No, so you know what's funny though is I became obsessed with online marketing like 10 years ago. And I remember seeing Joe Polish do all this stuff about I think he did like carpet cleaning or something like that. Yeah. So, and then my first podcast was called Sales Polish. And then when I would go look at my, do you know where I'm going with this? I would go onto iTunes and look up my show, and then I would see his Joe Polish on there, and I'd be like, oh, how funny. I wonder if he like sees me in some way. Am I registering on his radar at all?
Parallel lives.
He's amazing.
We should see, he is, the busiest person alive, but I am telling him that he needs to go on a bunch of recovery podcasts in order to promote the book. Cause I've gone, this is like, and so maybe we can hook it up.
Girl, I would be so excited about that. Yeah, I've been following him forever, so that would be super cool. And he does a Genius Network.
He's the nicest person. Yeah, he's so nice. He's such a good man.
Yeah, I didn't actually realize he was in recovery until I saw Tommy Rosen's 2.0, and he and Ben Hardy did the talk together. Yeah.
I didn't know they talked together, but Ben is in the Genius Network too. And Tommy is as well.
Yeah.
So he decided a few years ago that he wanted to like make his life's mission to help change the global conversation about addiction. So he and I are working on a bunch of that stuff together.
No, I think that's so great. I hope you get filthy rich by working with him, because he's certainly knows how to make money.
Me too, man.
Hey, and then when I was doing my research, I saw that you did a TEDx in Los Gatos.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Are you near there?
You're like in my backyard practically. Yeah, I'm in San Jose, which is like right next door. I spend a lot of time in LG, as we call it.
It was so nice. Yeah, even though I'm from the Bay Area, I didn't understand that I should have stayed. Los Gatos High School is the nicest high school I've ever been to. And apparently it's renowned for being this amazing school. Yeah. And right at the end, there's this gorgeous hotel. But instead, I booked some hotel in Menlo Park, like right on that highway. And I was... but the kids from that school were so amazing. I did 3 TEDx talks. I did the same talk in 3 places. Los Gatos, San Diego, and then I did
Ohlone?
Yeah, and I think that's up north too. Yeah, it's in Newark.
Ohlone, Los Gatos, San Diego, University of San Diego. So Los Gatos, you talked to the high school kids, and then Ohlone and San Diego were the college kids.
Yeah, they had the college and the high school put it on, but they had an audience of like adults and stuff like that.
Oh,
so because it was just a TEDx event that anyone could.
Because I was giggling because I was like, oh well, you're this sex and cocaine party girl. What was the message to the kids?
My TEDx talk is all about embracing your labels, because in embracing, and I talk about the label of addict, like in embracing your labels, you rid yourself of shame, and then you actually help other people to embrace it, and those people may be struggling in silent shame. So it's a good talk. It's online, like in a bunch of places. I can't bring myself to watch it, but it is there.
So do you watch yourself on other shows, like when you were on? You don't? What was that? What about the show with The View? I read at the end of the book. I don't know if you saw that right there. I have your book.
I saw it. It's so cute.
I put that up there for you. I mean, it's there all the time.
All the time, just facing out the way it is, with no other books facing out.
I'll check it out.
I assumed as much.
Yeah. I forgot where I was going with that. Oh, that's super fun.
Yeah, The View. I've never been on The View, but the Party Girl does end with the character going on The View. I used to go on the Today Show and CBS Morning Show and Fox News.
Did you meet Matt Lauer?
I never met Matt Lauer. Because I used to do it in LA where they would like tape segments, but then I did it once in New York and Al Roker interviewed me. But I have
the skinny Al or the other ones?
maybe not so skinny. I've literally never seen the Today Show. I used to watch those clips actually. Yeah. With big live TV, I would watch it just to be like, okay, I didn't humiliate myself, right? But sitting there for 10 minutes watching me give a talk that I memorized, I like don't need that because I'll just see something I don't like.
Is your mom super excited when those things come out?
No, that's part of the complication. My family doesn't read my stuff, and they
don't know how awesome you are.
Not come to my Los Gatos or Ohlone talk. It was kind of weird, but that's just not. They forgot. That's just not their thing. That's just not. Yeah, it's definitely something I've worked on, but that's just not how they roll.
Is that part of your therapy?
Yes.
It's like we need to learn to validate ourselves, which is a very common experience. And you've written a lot about learning to love yourself, right? You had a book around that.
Yeah,
you have a course around that.
You know what? That course, I disbanded that whole thing. It's a work in progress for me, and I just realized that like I feel comfortable writing and talking about how to grow a writing career, but the rest of it, I'm no freaking expert. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, listen, it's hard. I mean, we all have to deal with that inner critic and relationship. I feel like people either struggle with money or relationships, romance or finance. Like everyone's got a cross to bear. It's like you get sober and then what? Well, then there's always something, right?
Yeah. Hopefully those struggles end at a certain point.
I think they evolve and get better.
They get better.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to reach some point of nirvana where we're just like, okay, cool, right here.
No, but the tragic experiences ideally end.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. Yes.
So it's we have to get close to wrapping up because I got to go to my thing.
I was just going to say we're at our time, and I usually have a wrap up question. So we didn't even really get into how awesome the Miracle Morning for Addiction and Recovery is, but
so now we can. That can be your wrap up.
Do you want to do that? Okay, because usually I wrap up with my wrap up question is, since the podcast is ODAAT for One Day at a Time. Like what is your routine? So do you want to talk about how you stay sober one day at a time? What's your daily or weekly routine?
Yes, I do. The Miracle Morning for Addiction Recovery gets into a bunch of things that we should be doing, including being silent, which is meditation. Yes. The savers. So silence, affirmation, visualization, Jesus, education.
Okay.
God, Jesus Christ.
There's another S. I think he said scribe because he couldn't say writing.
Yes, scribing.
Journaling.
And so that really, I learned to do Vedic meditation, which is like transcendental meditation with a mantra, many, many, many years ago. And I've always done that and then prayed. And now I've switched it up and I meditate, I write, I do 3 pages of writing in the day. Like morning
pages, like the
pages? Just started doing it in the last couple months. Then I have a couple things I do. I will record things I know to be true that my brain will tell me are not true. Just super loving, real thoughts that, and I'll record them and then I'll walk around the neighborhood listening to so it's a version of mantras.
Yeah. And it's your own voice. It's your own sweet voice. You know what I mean? Because we all have the critical voice.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I was listening to my recording today and I was like, this is really good. I wonder if I'm sure lots of people have these struggles. I wonder if I could release these as an affirmation CD. Who the frick knows? But
why
anyway.
don't you do a little podcast series?
Because, girl, I got too much to do. You got too much to do.
I know. There's so many things to be done with the podcast. It's like, oh, so many ideas, so little time. Okay, so do you still go to meetings?
Oh, yeah.
Do you have a sponsor?
Yeah.
And
I have sponsees.
Okay. How many sponsees do you have?
2.
Oh, do you keep it small on purpose?
No, I'm not the greatest sponsor. I only like sponsoring people I like, and I don't like everybody. So I happen to have 2 women I just love and adore. So I feel really lucky. But no, I'm not like a person who secretaries meetings, who is like super asked all the time to be a sponsor. That's just not my thing.
Do you do service work? Do you have a service commitment somewhere?
I started a meeting, and for years just like tried, and now it's completely taken off and people love it. But I was just determined to make that meeting a success, and it's really wonderful. So I've always had a commitment at that meeting. I always have a commitment somewhere. I could definitely use more service in my life.
Well, I think you do a lot, like the nature of your work is very service oriented,
Yes, but I can really like justify not doing things that the thing is, it's like my work benefits me too. And so when I get like incredibly fawning emails about like all this good you do in the world and blah, 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 I'm sort of like, I think you're getting me mixed up with someone else because yes, but I also love doing it. I mean, yes, it is nice to do something that I believe helps people. And I'm a lot happier than when I was just writing books for myself.
Yeah. No, that's super cool. Do you go through the steps annually, or are you like a 10, 11, 12 kind of girl? Like you did the whole, you know what I mean? Like do you do the maintenance steps, or do you occasionally go through all of them?
I'm sober so long. I've probably done the steps probably every couple years. I end up doing it for some reason. I switch sponsors, or at one point my friend and I did the what's his name? Herb K. I don't know if you know his workbook. We decided to just like work the steps. Frankly, I really just practice 11 and 12. I'm not great about 10 steps at all.
Okay. Yeah. I just did an inventory recently, and it was so eye-opening. Yeah. The 10, 11, 12. Okay. Last question for you. What has recovery taught you about who you really are?
A lot. I used to think before I got sober that I was like really hard and really fun and cool. And I've learned that I'm the most sensitive and fearless. I thought I was fearless. And I've learned that I'm so sensitive and that I'm actually scared. I'm not scared of like the big things. I'm not scared of going on TV. I'm not scared of, I've rappelled down buildings and all that stuff, but I'm really terrified of the little things. I am terrified to let go of something that I want. I'm terrified of awkward conversations with people. I realize I get really angry when I'm around like people who are quiet because I'm terrified that it's all on me. My dad was really quiet, and I always felt this like obligation to make it interesting. And so I'm far more sensitive and scared than I realized.
You're an orchid.
I'm an orchid, but I also realized I was smart. I had no idea I was smart or that I could be successful, because God knows I wasn't before I got sober.
Yeah, it's hard to be successful when you're addicted and an alcoholic. Or do you consider yourself an alcoholic?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Alcohol. Okay. Yeah. Well, listen, thank you so much. You are so easy to talk to. You're so sweet. Everything everyone says, all the good things they say about you.
And none of the bad. All the good and none of the bad. No, right back at you. I am so excited you're going to do the program because I feel we're simpatico,
Totally.
So thank you so much for having me on this. And then we'll talk tomorrow or whatever, and I will, send this around whenever it's ready to go out.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited. I'll have it out shortly. And listen, thank you so much for coming on. I'm excited about working with you, and you're going to a meditation. So have a great meditation tonight.
Thank you, dear. I will talk to you soon.
Okay,
Bye.
Thanks. Bye. One last thing before you go, if you enjoyed the podcast today, please don't forget to subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher and leave a review. And if you'd like to make a donation to the podcast and help me keep the lights on, you can do so by visiting ODAATchat.com. There's a donation button or membership button on the right-hand side. Have a great day. Thank you so much for joining us.